Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. And of course, you good old boys in Africa. We love the Big C tribe. We love them in Canada. But Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful June 19th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charles, it is hot and muggy as heck down here, boy. I tell you, I feel like an old dog in a rainstorm. I can't get dry. I don't care where I run and hide. And I see why Julio Jones missed mini camp and went elsewhere. With this humidity, pay the fine.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, pay the fine and get yourself some cold glass of moonshine, and some collard greens and moonshine always taste much better than a couple of days after. Big C, just for a lot of good old boys out there, a lot going on in the sports universe from the World Cup. You know, we love all the people in Russia playing sports and having a great time there. Also, baseball's in full swing. We do have some things happening, of course, in the White House that you would have to be living under a rock not to know what's going on with keeping people's kids, and they're crying, and the administration's acting like, well, so what? But I want to bring that up too. But Big C, I want to ask you, you know, today is actually Juneteenth, and it's a celebration for African Americans, which started at the end of slavery in 1865. And I just want to get your thoughts. I think so much of what we do, we take for granted, especially with the fact that our phone lines were tapped yesterday. We had so much static on the Big C Sports Show. Sometime AT&T says reach out and touch somebody. Well, Putin been tapping the Big C Sports line, so we had a lot of static yesterday. We want to apologize for everyone around the universe that had a hard time listening to our program yesterday. But Big C, talk about your feelings of Juneteenth. Not too many people know about it. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's a celebration of the African American community that commenced the ending of slavery and freedom as Americans. Even though it was the ending of slavery, I mean, African Americans still did not get freedom, Charlton.
Yeah.
This was a celebration that was brought upon, you know, June was the month ended in the 19th, so they made it Juneteenth, the holiday.
Yeah.
But you know what, when you look at the oppression of the African American people in America, Charlton, throughout the decades since then, Charlton, the oppression that they have lived under, and even the oppression that you live under today, when you look at an unequal society, as much as people want to think that society is equal, and when you think about everybody else gives a holiday that is celebrated every year by the country in Charlton, but the African American holiday is not celebrated by the country. It's not made a national holiday. We had to fight hard to get Martin Luther King Day, Charlton, as a national holiday.
Yeah.
But when you think about all these other celebrations that are commemorates of other nationalities in the United States, Charlton, the feeling that Juneteenth is not looked at as a U.S. holiday, yet it was created here in the U.S., Charlton.
Yeah.
And for the oppression of a culture of people, it means that the rest of the United States doesn't acknowledge us completely, Charlton, as still being free and equal.
I think we all celebrate our St. Patrick's Day. I do want to say this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. A lot of people wear green on St. Patrick's Day. And
it's a national holiday here, Charlton.
National holiday. Well, actually, Juneteenth, also known as Juneteenth Independence Day or Freedom Day, is an American holiday also that commemorates June 19th, 1865 announcement of the abolition of slavery. But as you mentioned, it's not celebrated. I think Trump's going to try to make that more recognized, Big C, as he and Steve Bannon and then Jeff Sessions, I think they're going to put something on the books so that more people in America can actually understand that it's actually a holiday and it's commemorating the ending of slavery. I think Trump's going to bring that to the national attention. But I just want to bring this up because they say it's a sad dog that won't wag his tail. And I know your neighbor still denied that he had your dog, and he even gave him what do they do, bleach his hair blonde? You had a black dog, a brunette or a black dog, you bleached it. He bleached it blonde, thinking that people think it's really a blonde dog. I think a lot of Americans understand what I'm saying when they bleach their hair to make it look like a eugenic look. But if we understand that United States of America is a great country, and it is a nation of the law. But if you don't know your rights, you may as well be ignorant. And how do I tie in Juneteenth to what's happening right now to a lot of Mexican Americans, or as Trump calls them, illegals? They're not illegal. They're human beings like anybody else is. But if we realize, especially for some of my black brethren that get on the side of Sessions, I can't understand it. They're stop and frisk. Some of these same African Americans ignorantly approve of a man that wants to stop and frisk their own kids. That shows you're ignorant. So when we stand up and say, well, these kids, they should be here legally. Well, there was a time where lynching people was legal. It was a horrible law, draconian law, and they took it off the books. So just because something is signed into law doesn't mean that it meets God's moral high ground. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about the law of immigration and illegal immigration into America, you have to look at what's occurring now. This is really a step back to World War II, when you looked at the concentration camps.
Yeah.
When the Nazis, that the president called good people,
sure did,
took the children of the Jewish nation, Charlton,
yes,
and put them in internment camps. And so when you think about what he's doing to children, and he's saying that it's the Democrats' fault, there's no Democrat right now pulling for this, Charlton.
Nope.
There's not many Republicans pulling for this. This is a White House administration rule. And I'm asking everybody to be civil as a person. And think about this. When you look several months ago, when there was film footage in Syria of children being gassed by a rude dictator over there.
Yeah.
And Trump said he wouldn't stand for that, the harming of children.
Yeah.
But if you remember, those children were very pale, Charlton, in their complexion.
Yeah.
And so there were different complexion other than the children that are being taken from these immigrants that are coming into the United States.
Yep.
He bombed the country because he said children shouldn't suffer at the hands of an evil person.
No.
These were the words of the president. He said children should not suffer at the hands of an evil person. And so I'm not sure how he understands what he's doing to the children now, Charlton, that are coming up from South America. You rip a child from its parent. I mean, we have many parents listening to our program.
Yes.
Someone walks up, takes your child, says, we'll bring them back when we feel like it.
Yeah.
You don't know the person.
Nope.
Your child doesn't know the person. And they're gone. And then they take you and lock you up.
Yeah.
Think about how you feel. We're talking about humanity here, Charlton. We're not talking about criminals. We're talking about humanity. Now, you think about coming into this country illegally is a misdemeanor.
Yep.
Misdemeanor, Charlton. A traffic ticket. They write you up. That's the reason why President Bush and President Obama had catch and release.
Yep.
Because they did not want to create this type of situation, Charlton, of mass incarceration of people who did not commit a serious crime, Charlton.
I agree.
Other than a misdemeanor.
I agree.
But when you look at this administration, this is a political ploy. And even part of his base is saying that this is wrong. They're coming to civility.
Yes.
That this is wrong, Charlton, because when you rip apart the fabric of a culture and say we're using it as a deterrent, that we'll kidnap your children from you if you come into our country, because that's basically what has occurred.
Yeah.
They have kidnapped children. The U.S. government is committing a felonious crime, Charlton.
Yeah.
Kidnapping children. They've also committed a Mann Act. They've taken these children across state lines without their consent or their parental consent. That is a Mann Act. Look it up.
Yeah.
It's on the books, Charlton. It is a federal law, a Mann Act. Our federal government is committing that every day.
Yep.
But when I liken to what the administration is doing, Charlton, to Hitler, we understand that our president wants to be a dictator.
Yes.
But when you're taking children and putting them in a concentration camp, you got them sleeping in tents, in 100-degree weather in Arizona and in Texas.
Yeah.
That's inhumane.
Yeah, it is.
Felony prisoners do not sleep in those harsh conditions. Think about it. Felony prisoners that have committed murder, that are major drug dealers, that are rapists, do not sleep in those type of conditions that he is putting these children in.
Well, you know what? I mean, for everybody that loves sports, and it's almost, we celebrate the World Cup, and the only reason Nazi Germany happened is because the world turned its back while Jewish people were being burned in ovens. And it got to the point where people couldn't deny it anymore. But there was a time people said, hey, you know, it's not my problem. You know, I'll pray for those people. But they said it's not my problem. But the world came together and stopped that atrocity. You know, the late Ronald Reagan said that the United States is the last beacon of hope. And I wonder what Reagan would think today. I mean, we got to be able to criticize ourselves, whether it's Big C Sports or any other media. And I want to reach out to my sports brethren. I know we have the World Cup, but when we realized the nation took a pause when we had a terrorist attack on American land. And right now we have other human beings who are being ripped from their families. And I know some people are they're so at the point where they just want to watch the game. It's a shame, Big C. And I haven't seen any other media sports program. I love CNN. I haven't seen many other media programs that even take a pause and say, this is wrong. They're so busy reading for the few dumb people that still watch the programming, that don't even know what's going on, and that it takes people of all faiths and all walks of life to say this is not right. It shouldn't just take former Attorney General of California, Kamala Harris. What can we do to get some of our sports brethren to take even 2 minutes to say, this is inhumane, and ask people to take a moment of silence before they kick the ball, the soccer ball around the world, or they swing a baseball bat in the United States? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, there's been many of people saying that this is inhumane. But when you look at where our administration is, if you look at the travel ban that was tried to be installed, you know, when this administration took place.
Yes.
You look at Puerto Rico, Charlton, what happened in Puerto Rico. You look at Charlottesville, where it said the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists were good people. And you look at what's occurring now with these immigrants coming across the border, Charlton. They all have something in common.
What's that?
It's something against brown people. Every one of these things is an act against brown people, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's where our administration is. And when you look at all our athletes out there, Charlton, regardless of the sport, and especially with the World Cup going on right now, Charlton, you realize a lot of these citizens are members of World Cup countries.
Yep.
And you think about it, that the World Cup can invite these countries in to participate. But the U.S., a country that did not make the World Cup, is not allowing these citizens into the U.S. The world has invited all of these people, Charlton.
Yes.
But the U.S. is saying no.
Yep.
And we have many athletes from these countries, Charlton, from Venezuela, you know, from El Salvador, that play in the Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Okay? That play in MSL soccer, Charlton, that have speaking out and oppose what's going on with the administration. If you watch Telemundo and Univision, Spanish language television, Charlton, many of the athletes on those nations have spoken out against the oppression that's going on here in the U.S.
So why doesn't it hit some of our mainstream program when everybody wants to know, while kids are being ripped apart from their families? I hear some of our sports brethren saying, in a show after show after show, hey, where's LeBron James going to play? Kids being put into these camps. Hey, do you think that LeBron James is going to go to L.A.? Do you think he's going to go to Houston? Hey, where's Chris Paul going to go? Kids being ripped apart. We have World Cup where a lot of those athletes that you talked about are from those countries that are affected, and we have mainstream. I mean, I'm just going to assume that most of the sports directors are Caucasian, because they don't even have, we celebrate the World Cup, but we don't celebrate and bring acknowledgement to a world atrocity. And I wonder what people around the world think of our mainstream sports shows, that only people like Big C Sports and maybe Oprah and CNN and a couple other outlets from the United States are even talking about this more than a 30-second soundbite. I just want to get it has to hit someone in the heart, Big C, when we hear those cries that Don Lemon talked about. And POTUS, imagine if that was POTUS's grandkids. Would he be just as flippant, or some of his spokespeople from the White House, would they be just as innocuous when it comes to the pain of putting young kids in fear? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you everyone in America that has some type of media device that they can look at or hear has heard the cry of those children.
Yeah.
But it lets you know how desensitized our country is as a whole, that you allow our elected officials to do this, Charlton, for political gain. This is not humanity gain. This is political gain. This is about money. This is about dollars. Understand, this is a pimping situation. That's what you're doing. You know, when you look up and you see children, this is human trafficking that the U.S. is doing, Charlton.
I know it.
Think about this. You know, they talk about smugglers bringing kids into the country. The U.S. is smuggling these children to other states. So the U.S. is committing human trafficking.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that other sports stations and other sports broadcasters, Charlton, don't want to touch on.
Why not, Big C?
Is that these kids don't look like them, okay? They don't have an emotional or social tie to them, Charlton.
Yeah.
So they say it doesn't happen in my neighborhood. It's just like when we talk about racial profiling on television. Well, you know, when we look at many minority athletes, well, I make enough money where I'm not in a neighborhood where this is going to occur anymore.
Yeah.
Or generally, it doesn't happen to me. You can't tell the young man from the Milwaukee Bucks that, Charlton.
Yes.
That got beat up and slammed and tased.
Yes.
Regardless of the amount of money that you make. But I look at everybody on television that is desensitized to this because, as you say, they talk about LeBron, where he's going, where Carmelo's going,
yes,
where Paul George and Chris Paul are going. That's where the deflection from reality.
Well,
so many people in society, Charlton, want a deflection from reality until it touches them.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden they become humanized. But you have to understand you need to be human every day. But our administration has made this country, has made people look. I have to fend for myself.
Yeah.
Because I don't know which direction this thing is going in right now. We don't even know when this ride is going to stop.
Wow.
So people have become fearful and desensitized about other people and worrying about themselves so much.
That is something that I still, because I know so many people of Latin descent for many years. And I think when I look at Juneteenth, and nobody acknowledges it, Big C Sports is probably the only sports show that will acknowledge it all over the world. In fact, all over the universe. I want people to pay attention to that. And we also acknowledge St. Patrick's Day. I'm not Irish. I think all life came from Africa, according to science. Even in the Bible, Jesus only walked on the African continent. You can Google that too. And I just want to bring this up because I want to be a beacon of hope as much as I can. We're only one station. We're only one sports program, but we're not ignorant. So I can't be what some women complain about. I've known so many women over the years that worked in the sports business, and they go on a date with an athlete, and they would opine, you know what, this guy, all he talked about was sports. Who won the game, how fast he ran the 40, you know, how much he could bench press on the bench machine, and how much he could squat. And I asked, what woman decides to just hang out with that guy more than one date? Would you believe a lot of them do, Big C? Because he signed that $1 million contract so they can look past it. But most guys, and that's why we have Baby Daddy's Day. We got to celebrate that too, Big C, for all those people that they look at guys like that because of the profile. But for everybody that doesn't have a voice, I can put my Ebonics in there too. You know, my Ebonics slipped in that Big C for Baby Daddy Day. I can do Ebonics. We do it all. We represent everybody on the Big C Sports Show. But in all seriousness, because I know people of Latin descent, and many people say, well, why won't anyone talk about it? Just like no one talks about Juneteenth, because it's not on the consciousness. So again, I would like to just reach out to my brethren. They talk about reading the Bible, and Sessions wants to go with the Bible, and he did it on a news program. We talk about the Bible on sports. Nobody does that. In Leviticus 19:33, when a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Well, if we can all find at least the clergy to take a pause from watching sports, even just for a minute, we can watch a beer commercial, we can surely ask someone to stand for a moment of prayer or whatever it takes. Because if they were rounding up black Americans, it wasn't too long ago, Big C, that they did that. Less than 200 years ago. And had they not stopped it, there'd be no Big C Sports Show. And that's why the people who have a voice, we call for them to make it known. Don't just be silent. Big C, that has to hit on, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, let me liken what's going on right now with the immigrants that's coming into America that are brown complexion to what happened in Puerto Rico, okay, with the hurricane season last year. All right, Charlton? Mm-hmm. The administration said that there were 66 deaths in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
The president went down there and threw out paper towels to people.
I remember that.
That didn't have power, didn't have sewage, didn't have running water, Charlton. He threw them paper towels.
Yes.
They were happy to see him, and they were wonderful, beautiful paper towels.
Yeah.
That's what they needed. They didn't have a house to stay in.
Right.
They didn't have running water.
Yeah.
But the paper towels that I threw them was appreciated.
Yes.
Come find out, Charlton, there was 10 times as many deaths in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
That they reported. They reported 64, 66 deaths. It was over 6,000, Charlton.
Yes.
Our administration lied about that. Puerto Rico, Charlton, is still in a rundown, dilapidated state.
Yes.
Now, I think that Puerto Rico is considered part of the U.S., Charlton.
Yeah, it is.
It's U.S. territory?
Yep.
Territory, excuse me. And there's some 15 to 20 Major League Baseball players from that island of Puerto Rico, Charlton.
Yeah.
Okay, so every night, basically, when you see a baseball game on television, you have a Latin American player from that region, Charlton.
Sure do.
Playing in a game. Not once does a broadcaster talk about the hardship that hit that island nation, Charlton.
We do.
It's part of the United States.
Yeah.
But yet they still resonate about what went on in Houston with the hurricane there, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so they get recognition and sympathy.
Yeah.
But the Puerto Ricans don't, Charlton, because the Puerto Rican is a nation of brown people, Charlton.
Yeah.
Just like the immigrants trying to come into the U.S. So when you say, why don't our brethren speak about these immigrants coming into the U.S., they don't even speak about U.S. citizens that are brown, Charlton.
That's a good
point.
They
go through hardship. So when we talk about immigrants coming to the country and why don't they, think about the money that these broadcast companies, Charlton, are making off the backs of these brown Latin American citizens that play baseball in the major leagues, Charlton. There's no sympathy or empathy given to the countries, the hardship that the countries are still going through.
Yes.
They don't even talk about these people. They had families, Charlton, that they lost, family members, extended family members that they lost. Their lives will never be the same, and they're U.S. citizens. So if the broadcast companies, whether it's mainstream or sports, don't care about the U.S. citizens, how much can we expect for them to give to immigrants when they come into this country?
That's a very good point, Big C. I would like to also ask, because, again, whenever there's a tragedy or a national disaster, I'm so, for our media brethren, I really want to applaud Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo on CNN News. They're two fearless men that will, just like Big C Sports, they ask you to fact check them. We've been saying Google it, they're saying fact check it. I mean, that's how we can save our society, because freedom of the press is so important. But if you can't trust the media, trust yourself. Google it on your phone. I would think that for my mainstream brethren that keep saying, well, these are illegals and they're coming here illegally, and we have Sessions saying that. And Sessions with them, good old boys from down south in your neck of the woods, Big C, they love their sports down south. There was a time when Jim Crow laws, they were legal, now they've been abolished. I would hope that the Trump administration, as far of a reach as this is, can actually impose a law that would ban racism. And
well, Charlton, how many neo-Nazis are in this country illegally? And the president said they're good people. Yeah. How many neo-Nazi, Aryan race people do we have in the United States that have come into this country that have assimilated because they're blonde hair, blue eyes, and nobody questions any of them? No. Even though they don't speak good English. Yeah. They're okay. Look how many Russians we have in this country, Charlton, living amongst us. That are never questioned by mainstream, even law enforcement, Charlton. Yeah. And so when you like I said, they're not brown complected. You have to understand what's going on with the administration right now, Charlton, is racism.
Yeah.
It's governmental racism. I mean, we've always had it. White House. I mean, not the White House, but in this country.
Yeah.
But when you go back to what he said during his campaign, we're going to treat people the way we used to.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Once I get elected, you can do what you wanted to do to people without any recourse. That's what he is doing. This is institutionalized slavery that he's committing, as well as a Mann Act, kidnapping,
Yeah.
and illegal transportation of a foreign citizen, Charlton.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I hope that Trump could pass a law that would make racism illegal. And if anyone's found guilty of it, that they could be exported. Because that's a fact. I mean, we have ended laws that were racist on paper. And we did that with the Civil Rights Act. And I would hope that anyone who's for this internment camp that they're doing, this pseudo-internment camp they're doing to Latin American children, that we could also do the same for people who are proven to be racist. Put them in a camp. It hasn't been too far off that we outlawed, made it illegal to discriminate. And if anyone is found discriminating, I wonder how long it would take Jeff Sessions to stand in line with an anti-racism bill. And I mean that with all my heart. Because it's not something you're born with, it's something you're taught. And case in point, Big C. Russia. A lawmaker in Russia, Tamara Plentinova, on a Moscow radio station, and Big C Sports is also heard in Russia, okay? And you can Google this. She urged Russian women to use caution with foreign men during this year's World Cup. It's amazing they got the World Cup. But according to the translation by the Associated Press, you can Google it, head of a parliamentary committee about family, women, and children issues, also said she preferred to see Russian women marry fellow Russian citizens and raise their families in that country. Now, people marry who they want to marry. You can be jingoistic if you want to, but the World Cup was awarded to a country where not all citizens, but there's some lawmakers that have enmity against the skin complexion of people coming in. But we all know, the truth be told, not only is Russia involved in the White House in the fixing of our elections, but there are many Russian Americans that I know that don't even have bank accounts. So how do they get their money? Where do they put their money? And when you follow these sports programs, and you don't hear about this on the Sports Leader, you hear about it on Big C Sports. How do we know that? Anybody can know it if they look at it. But I would hope that throughout the world, at least in the United States, marry who you want to marry. There were, miscegenation used to be against the law. That means marry somebody of a different skin color because we're all of the same race. And everybody has their own preferences. That's fine. But I would hope that if the president wants to be strictly about the law, how can we lock up people who have racism and it's proven that they've been racist in their behavior? Big C, I know that may sound whimsical, but it would just be practicing the law. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they have to clean out the White House to do that. When you look at our administration and what it's practicing now, everyone said they elected the president because he's a deal maker. When you think about what is occurring with this country right now, with all the tariffs that have been put on foreign countries, they're slapping the same tariffs back on the U.S. So when we look at our U.S. citizens, the more we're going to have to pay for goods and services in this country starting next month, it's going to increase 5 to 10, maybe even 15%, the cost of goods doing business here in America. That cost. And so this is the art of the deal. And he talks about unemployment being down in the U.S. He has not raised minimum wage in the U.S. If you want to improve the quality of life of Americans, don't give them $1,000 on a tax return. Give them another $2 pay increase on minimum wage in America. Allow people to earn a decent wage. We look at athletes making multi-million-dollar contracts, which is great, and I'm proud of those individuals who achieved and ascended to such a pinnacle of economic freedom. But look at the person who has to try to buy a ticket to go and support that local team, Charlton. There's not many people, and most arenas and stadiums, Charlton, are inner city. So those people who live within the distance of those stadiums, Charlton, cannot afford to go to them.
No.
Because of the economic base that they live in. You don't get high-end businesses generally at stadiums, Charlton.
Yes.
You don't. You get menial jobs, service industry jobs, Charlton. So those people really can't afford to go to those games.
Yes.
And so when we talk about this administration being about Americans, ask yourself as an American, would you rather have a $2 an hour increase on your pay, or would you rather have $1,000 extra on your income tax return? And I'm not good at math, but I think it might come out to a little bit more than $2 an hour.
Yep.
Based on that 40-hour work week, the 160 hours, work month.
Yeah.
I mean, that's $320 extra each month.
Yeah.
Times 12.
Yeah.
I think you would be better off with a $2 federal wage increase versus $1,000 on your tax return.
Makes sense.
So understand how you were hoodwinked and you're getting this tax break.
Yep.
You got $1,000.
Yeah.
But corporate America got a 10% tax cut.
Yes.
Think about it. They got a 10% tax cut. You got $1,000 tax return.
Did see that?
Somebody lost in that equation.
Somebody lost. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. I know we brought it up earlier because we are a nation of the law. And I want to bring up the issue because we are a nation of the law. And it's important that I tell for young people, I want you to follow Big C Sports, not because it's us, but just like that pot of collard greens that tastes so much better the second day, Big C, when it's fermented and you add that moonshine into it. I love collard greens, and so I'll eat them up as long as I know they were prepared well. I know back in the day, they used to say, my grandmother, Grandma, you put your foot in these collard greens. And that's a compliment, but one day we got up early. We saw Grandma doing some collard. She was putting her foot in the pot, and she was mashing it with her toes. I think she had some of that good foot stuff, that good spices that they couldn't get from the grocery stores, Big C. But I want to bring up a serious issue because you and I talk about the law. And I know people want to know who won the game, so Google the score. But I don't want dumb people following Big C Sports, especially young kids. If you turn over to the mainstream sports show, we're going to give you sports too. But we give you intelligent sports. I don't want young kids who listen to us to be wasting their time that we read them the scores all day, assuming they're ignorant and that's all their mind can focus on. And for you women that signed up to BigCDate.com, don't date guys who can only tell your scores because they're wasting your time. Sterling Brown, you know why it's important to know the law? Big C, you just did this story last week on how you say don't waive time. That means ask for a speedy trial if you're ever accused. We also said for everyone in the universe, in the United States of America, black Americans, especially men, are 7 times more likely to be falsely accused of a crime. Sterling Brown, multimillionaire, plays NBA basketball for the Milwaukee Bucks. He was arrested at midnight, about 2 in the morning, for being illegally parked or double parked in a parking lot to go get some medication or whatever he went to get. Long story short, surrounded by police cars, they tased him. One officer pulled out his gun, and it didn't go off, but he finally launched a lawsuit against the Milwaukee police. Now, the chief of police of Milwaukee, they apologized for this incident that happened earlier this year. Big C, why is it important to understand the law and not just who won the game? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it is very important. They dropped the charges on this young man. But they should have never charged him, Charlton. This is what I talk about as a misdemeanor. What he was charged with as a misdemeanor was the same thing that these people are being charged with coming across the border. But because this video of him went viral, they felt they needed to apologize.
Yep.
Think about how many American citizens, Charlton, never get an apology.
Yeah.
That are being attacked by law enforcement. We're saying that law enforcement does things wrong.
Yeah.
They do 99% of the things they do right, Charlton.
Yeah.
But there's 1% that's wrong that makes it bad. That can cost a citizen their life. That can cost them their livelihood.
Yeah.
That can destroy them completely, Charlton. Because once you get caught up in the system, society looks at you differently.
Yeah.
Sterling Brown was very fortunate because he was a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And they could not hide. And there was also store video that they did not release showing he had done nothing other than double parked, and he had partially parked in a handicapped space, Charlton.
Yes.
Which they should have just wrote him a ticket.
A ticket, yeah.
Period.
Or even a warning.
Write him a ticket, Charlton.
Yeah.
He did something wrong.
Yes.
He committed a crime, okay? 2 a.m. in the morning, he committed a crime. He parked his car on top of a handicapped line. Who knows who wanted to go into a convenience store, well, even a CVS.
Yes.
2 a.m. in the morning. So he did wrong. He apologized for it, but he apologized for doing something wrong, Charlton.
Yes.
Which he was corrected in doing that. Write the man a ticket. Be gone.
Yes.
Stop running with your ego because you have a gun.
Yeah.
Stop thinking that it's your right to beat up on a minority citizen that is acting accordingly.
Yes.
He's not being threatening or hostile, using profanity.
No.
He apologized, admitted wrongdoing.
Yeah.
And you could not just write him a ticket. At that point, your ego came out. You saw a large black man. You saw an opportunity to intimidate somebody.
Yeah.
To enforce your will on somebody who drove a better car than you and was taller than you.
Well,
and so because you had this diminutive mentality that I'm going to do something to him and he can't do anything back.
Yes.
That's what's wrong with society, Charlton. That's what we have in our administration.
Yes.
They're bigger than everybody, Charlton.
Yeah.
So they can do things to people and people can't do things back.
Well, you know.
And so
yeah.
American is being oppressed. We look right now, Charlton, at this immigrant situation and the hardship that these people are going through. And it's pulling on the sympathetic strings of a lot of Americans.
Yeah.
But I also want you Americans to understand what the president has done to you with these tariffs that are going on. He is no longer bragging about the stock market because it dipped over 300 points today.
Sure did.
It dipped today.
Yeah.
This is because of his actions, that he's getting ready to cost you money. And you people are going to sit around and say, well, those people shouldn't be here. Well, these tariffs that he's putting on you that's going to hurt your pocket and going to take back that little tax return that you get, be happy. You elected this guy.
Isn't that something? I want to bring this up. I heard some athletes asking some very poignant questions, Big C. And because of what you do, I really want to applaud you in your knowledge of the criminal justice system. And they were asking, what does a motion to dismiss mean? And that's what that just happened to this gentleman that played basketball for the Milwaukee Bucks, where they did, they dropped the charges. But anyone can ask their attorney to file a motion to dismiss. But oftentimes, if your attorney knows he has money, and if you're an ignorant person, they don't want you to ask for a motion to dismiss because they want to keep dragging it out. Well,
they don't even want you to waive time, Charlton. Think about it. When you get an attorney, he's not going to make money in 30 days.
Nope.
He's going to make money over a year.
Yeah.
But he's not going to make money in 30 days. So when you file that you do not want to waive time when you take it in for your preliminary.
Yep.
I don't want to waive time. I want a speedy trial. And I'd also like, and when you go in, you like to ask for a motion to dismiss when that trial starts.
Amen.
Because if that prosecutor doesn't have a case, then that motion to dismiss has to be granted.
Yep. Yep.
Because the onus is on the prosecutor to have the evidence when the trial starts. They can't keep dragging along. They have to produce evidentiary evidence at the beginning of the trial for the trial to go forth.
Yeah.
That the judge has to look at and says there's reasonable cause that this trial should go forth. But if that prosecutor does not have the evidence for that trial to go forth, the judge must dismiss by law.
And that's for everyone, especially young black kids and their parents in the United States of America. You just saw what happened to an NBA player. And even for my mainstream brethren, my white friends and media, and when you hear Jeff Sessions talking, and Donald Trump talking, oh, we're trying to get the Mexicans out of the country. The browning of America is too much for us to understand or even appreciate. When you see what happened with your own eyes, this is a millionaire athlete. If you don't have several million, you don't really stand a chance, but you can Google. And I want everyone in the universe to Google motion to dismiss. What did it mean? No judge will automatically do it unless you ask. It's analogous to doing your homework, but you don't turn it in to the teacher. The teacher can say, well, I didn't grade you because I didn't get your homework. You say, well, I did it. They say, well, you didn't turn it in. And some attorneys, they will withhold it. They won't ask because that's where they make their money. So don't assume that every attorney knows more than you in your Google button. Google it. And when you hire a lawyer, remember, they work for you, not for your bank account. And you got to tell them, if you know the law, you got to be a participant in your own freedom. You can't just sit back and say, hey, my lawyer's going to handle it for me. There are a lot of lawyers that will handle it for you until your bank account says empty. And you can Google that. So a motion to dismiss is so important. It's more important than wanting to know where LeBron James is going to play next year. It's more important than knowing if Kyrie Irving is going to stay in Boston. It's more important than knowing is Tom Brady going to play for the Patriots this year. A motion to dismiss could have you free and at home as opposed to sitting behind bars. So for you black parents and all parents of all color, but especially if you're 7 times more likely to be falsely accused, Google motion to dismiss. You're not going to hear that in the mothership. They're going to be pumping you with, hey, man, are you going to buy these new sneakers? Hey, did you see the new tennis shoes that came out? Go buy these shoes for your kids. When you go to court, the judge don't want to see what kind of shoes you're wearing. He want to see, do you know the law? And you can Google it. Don't just trust your attorney. Big C, I want to bring something up that's so important to me because we're not a sycophants. For one of the first times, I'm proud of Tom Brady. Not only did he use the most powerful woman in the universe in Oprah Winfrey, and I didn't see the interview, but I read bits and pieces about what happened. For the first time, and I know he stood with his New England Patriot brothers, black and white, about kneeling for the anthem. But the mothership won't approach it with Tom because he's America's prodigal quarterback, and he's Caucasian, and they want to protect that image. But for the first time, to my knowledge, he met with some more than just a small blink of an eye to talk about social injustice and having something that I want every white person to understand what he said, because you guys are afraid. But America and the NFL have built him up as the paragon of virtue. And there were a time when he said nothing. But he said you got to have empathy for everybody in your locker room. That may not seem like a big statement, but for a white guy that's been built up on a pedestal and deemed untouchable by mainstream media, I'm proud of him for taking his head out of the sand for a change. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's not that he's taking his head out of the sand. You got to understand, mainstream broadcast has never put him in that position, Charlton.
That's true.
They weren't going to put that in front of him because they didn't want to put him on point saying that what was going on was wrong. They were protecting their own image.
Yes.
Not putting Tom Brady at issue, they protected their own image. I mean, if you go back and look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they stood in unison as an organization saying we will not stand for oppression in America.
Yeah.
We're from the city of brotherly love. And so when you look at per man on that team, Charlton, you had 3 to 4 people that were going to go to the White House.
Yes.
No players involved in that, Charlton. So when you think about this was a team of unity. They got 2 white quarterbacks in Philadelphia, actually 3.
Yes.
Okay? They stood for a man. You got players, I mean, led by, the Long kid, Charlton, who has given up his salary.
Chris Long.
For social injustice, Charlton. He said, I can't respect an administration. He said this while he was in New England. He said it while he was in Philadelphia. So he led the charge as a team leader. A Caucasian player, Charlton, led the charge with 2 different NFL organizations. He was a teammate with Tom Brady 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He was a teammate in Philadelphia this past year. Chris Long is one of the forefront people.
I'm proud of him.
Of mainstream, Charlton. But think about this. Mainstream sports will not show him.
Yeah.
They very rarely interview him because they don't want that image of a white athlete saying that there's social injustice. A couple times that you've seen him on television and he stated that, his interviews have been cut off, Charlton.
Yes.
Very limited. But you do not see him at any point. Now, this is a calculated thing by mainstream media. So when you see and you don't see white athletes speaking up about social injustice, they're not controlling the news clip, Charlton.
No.
They're not controlling the editing floor, Charlton. So there has been many white athletes in America that have spoke up against social injustice and oppression. It's just they're not the ones putting it on television. When I have a director or a producer or an editor saying, we're not going to use that.
Yes.
It's on the floor. And I've been in editing rooms, Charlton. I've cut pieces.
Yeah.
We're not going to use that. It's too harsh. You know, you went too far in this.
Yeah.
And so it never got cleared. So don't think that all that the white athletes have been quiet, Tom Brady and others, Charlton, they have spoke. But there's a thing called editing.
Yes.
You have to understand that. It's just like when people watch a reality or show on TV. How often do you think that somebody can walk into your bedroom when you're laying in bed with your significant other? They can walk into your bathroom while you're in a bubble bath, you know, and you're sitting in there with your significant other. They know every excerpt of your life.
Yeah.
That's edited, Charlton. That's scripted.
Yeah.
Athletes are not scripted, but what they say get edited. Even if you watch any sports show,
Yes.
and you watch them interviewing an athlete, watch the cut in between the interview, Charlton, where it moves. It happens all the time. They leave one context and go to another because they edit out what they don't want you to see or hear, Charlton.
Yeah.
So this has happened with a lot of mainstream and white athletes, Charlton, that what they have said, cut it.
Well, I want to ask, and we're going to try to clear your microphone because I think Putin still, and his Russian media are still trying to follow Big C Sports because we're having just a few technical, but we'll get your microphone cleared up. And I got to mention this point. Back in 1998, it was a Sports Talk USA. Tom Brady did a first sound clip on our sports show. It was out of Dallas, Texas, and he said, you're listening to America's Sports Talk team, Sports Talk USA. That was Tom right when he got into the NFL. And the reason I bring it up is because, and I applaud every person with a heart, because we say, how does sports and politics combine? Open your eyes, people. This is not for dumb people. And I want to applaud Oprah Winfrey, not only as a media maven and media mogul. I've always admired her. Oprah's a billionaire. She's very well off. But she's not a sycophant. And whether people like or dislike Oprah or her style or whatever, people have their own opinions about whatever media, whether it's Walter Cronkite or Oprah or Big C Sports. That's their choice. But she was able to do something, as you just touched on, that even mainstream won't do. So my challenge to our media brethren, and for the parents who let your kids overdose on mainstream, on the mothership programming, of just feeding your kids dumbed down programming. Like, how dumb can you be that you can only comprehend sports? And I think the topic of the conversation that Oprah did with Tom Brady, there was a time we would see someone like Bryant Gumbel have that type of interview, Big C. And we know he has his specials that he does. But this, if the mainstream media could see their prodigal son in Tom Brady standing up for black athletes and standing up for what's right, then it would be hard for them to go back to their own children and their wives and even the administration and say that they have anathema for black Americans and that is anti-military. They can't say that anymore. So that's why I appreciate not only Oprah Winfrey, she's been doing it for years. Remember, she took over for Phil Donahue. I used to love watching Phil Donahue back in the day. And there were people, Phil Donahue had Farrakhan on and talking about some of the issues that would help black Americans. So I just want to applaud Oprah. I love your angle on how mainstream will even shut down Tom Brady. And you think about it, Oprah's African American. She's talking to Tom about what's real. And Mothership TV is talking about, is LeBron James going to move to LA? And I ask every black parent, and a white parent too, Which one will keep your kids safe this summer as they're being preyed upon? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you have to understand what's there in front of you. You know, what limits your ability to see and hear.
Yeah.
That's called editing. And so it's when people have thought about it, let me throw it back to Puerto Rico.
Yes.
When our U.S. government said only 64, 66 people died in this horrific hurricane, Charlton, and come find out that a year later that the numbers exceeded 6,000, Charlton.
Wow.
Who lied?
Yeah.
Who edited? Who covered it up?
Yeah.
Mainstream media, Charlton. You're going to tell me they did not have accessibility to these numbers for a year? Yes, they did, Charlton. If they wanted you to know, they could have told you.
Yeah.
You know, they saw the bodies down there, Charlton, that had lost their lives and that were in the streets and in the water. They saw that, Charlton. They didn't want you to know that. And so when you hear that white athletes don't speak up, when you hear that black athletes don't speak up, Charlton,
yes,
these athletes have made statements on the mic and on the tape many occasions, Charlton.
Yes.
It's called editing.
Yeah.
You have to understand, when you watch television, Charlton, and it's not live, that's why you very rarely get live television.
Yes.
Because we need time to edit it. You know, when I used to broadcast, Charlton, everything was on like a 7-second delay.
Yes.
Everything. When you're seeing live television, you see a football game, basketball, it's on a delay.
Yeah.
Because things happen. And they've sped it up now, Charlton. It's less than 7 seconds because they hope that they can cut out the profanity when
yes.
players say it, and they get it from fans. They've gotten a little more technologically advanced.
Yes.
But when you look at it now, Charlton, they always had this cough button. You know, they're counting you down.
Yes.
These things happen.
Yes.
So, but you look at every pregame for every sporting event, Charlton, it's pre-recorded. You'll see the mat behind the broadcasters. Stadium and are empty.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the game kicks on and it's full.
I remember.
So they've recorded that 30 minutes before kickoff, Charlton. All the time we did that.
Yes.
And so they just plugged that in. So you didn't have any mistakes in your intro.
Yes.
During the game, they couldn't always control that. Every now and then there's slippage, and you'll hear that with broadcasters periodically with some slippage.
Yes.
But the thing you have to understand is that when you've looked at athletes over time saying, why haven't they spoke out? They've spoken. I remember a clip with Aaron Rodgers a year ago when they asked him about Colin Kaepernick.
Yes.
That little interview lasted about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
10 seconds. You're going to tell me that's all Aaron Rodgers spoke was 10 seconds? No, that's what you were edited down to.
Yes.
That's what they gave you to make it look like, well, I kind of think I understand. Boom, it's over with.
And I applaud Aaron Rodgers for that too, Big C, especially with what happened in Milwaukee with the basketball player. And you're right. And that's what makes my heart happy. I told you, it's my belief, talking to many clergy and even lawyers, that sports will galvanize our society. It will bring us together, our different backgrounds, different beliefs, different faiths, different genders. And I'm proud that some of our white brethren are having the chance to have their voices heard. So whether it's Big C Sports or Oprah Winfrey.
Well, look at this, Charlton. Yeah. You talk about Shannon Brown in Milwaukee, okay? You got the Milwaukee Brewers around there.
Yeah.
You got the Green Bay Packers down the street.
Yep.
You got the rest of the Milwaukee Bucks. What sports broadcast company, Charlton, went and interviewed any of these players?
That's true.
Who's saying that people don't speak out, white, black, whatever, Charlton? It's not that they don't. It's that it's not covered.
Yeah.
This is not what we want to put on the show. We don't want other players speaking about this incident, because now all of a sudden it's going to create this snowball effect. They're going to see that it's a societal problem.
Yeah.
If we interview other Milwaukee Bucks players, and there were 14 other Milwaukee Bucks players, Charlton, none of them were heard about their teammate being attacked.
Yeah.
You think they weren't opinionated on that, Charlton?
Yeah.
That none of them had a word to say? Even think about this. The Milwaukee Bucks were in the playoffs against the Cleveland Cavaliers, not the Cleveland, but Boston Celtics.
Yes.
After this incident occurred, not one broadcast game, Charlton, was that incident brought up. That incident did not come out until they were eliminated from the playoffs.
Wow.
So when you talk about your media brethren not talking about these things, Jonathan, they had knowledge of this incident occurring. Shannon Brown had talked to them. Milwaukee Bucks organization had talked to the media about this. But when the media chooses to oppress athletes and what they may verbalize, Charlton, that's the reason why you don't hear about it. It's not that they don't speak up, whether it's Tom Brady, Shannon Brown, Aaron Rodgers, Jameis Winston, Ben Roethlisberger, any of these quarterbacks, Charlton, they speak up because, as they say, uniforms are united.
Yes.
It's always been that way in sports.
Yeah.
But when the media won't put a mic in your face, whether it's broadcast media, news, whether it's broadcast media, sports, Charlton, when they don't touch on the subject, think about this. Shannon Brown happened in January.
Yes.
The Milwaukee Bucks were in the playoffs just a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
That they were eliminated, Charlton. We're in June now. They were eliminated the beginning of May from the playoffs.
Yeah.
That was a 4-month span, 4.5-month span, Charlton, that had happened in. The media never touched on it, Charlton. So when you say that athletes are silenced, hell no, they're not silenced. The media silences everything.
That is something I'm glad you brought up. So for some of my media brethren, when we started Big C Sports, and we don't just read your scores, because we respect that you're intelligent. I mean, if someone sends their kid to school and all they teach you are sports, put your kid in a different school, please. And if you're watching a sports program and they think you're so dumb, all they bring on are other erstwhile athletes to talk about the score, please find a new program. I want to pat ourselves on the back, Big C, because a dog that won't wag his own tail, I think, is your neighbor's dog, right? He's trying to get out, but the neighbor won't say he's yours. But for Big C Sports, and for some of the criticism that we've taken about, man, you guys talk about politics all the time. Think about what I'm going to say to you. The most sought-after quarterback, image-wise, for the NFL, which is trying to become a $27 billion industry over the next decade. It took another African-American, Oprah Winfrey, to bring the most prized quarterback onto a show that talked about social issues. Big C Sports was doing it before Oprah. I'm not saying Oprah follows us because I follow her for years. But if what she talks about is validated, that also validates what Big C Sports has been doing, not only about sports, but about everything going on in the universe. That's why we asked Big C what's going on in the sports universe. So Oprah Winfrey, as a hero of mine, I'm honored that you even covered a subject that we've been talking about for years. Big C, whether it's CNN, Big C Sports, or Oprah, I know that some day in time will come that mainstream media will realize when a lot of their people are tuning over to Big C Sports, because we give it to you real. Not saying we know everything, but we speak from the heart, and you can Google that. Big C, the Ollie Award, a lot of people are finalists for the Ollie Award. Durant, Watt is one of them. Your thoughts in the last minute on who, in your mind, embodies someone that could even wear the badge of winning the Ollie Award. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about this humanitarian award that comes from the highest of athletes ever, Charlton, it's something that's hard to live up to. We look at athletes, what they go out and do every day, but the athletes that don't let you know what they do when they're not at work are the ones that you're proud of, Charlton.
Yeah.
J.J. Watt, we know what he did for the city of Houston, Charlton, in leading the fundraising that went on after the hurricane down there, Charlton. We know what Kevin Durant does with his foundations. LeBron is, that type of humanitarian every day.
Yes.
And one of the things about an award like this, Charlton, is that you only give out one. And there's so many deserving athletes who go out every day, Charlton, unbeknownst to anybody.
Oh, yeah.
And do the things that make society better, that makes their community better, Charlton, and eases the pain and suffering of a lot of our youth in America, Charlton, on a daily basis, and even families.
Yeah.
And so to be nominated for a prestigious award like this as an athlete is a very high honor, Charlton. It's like winning the championship in your sport. It's like in the NFL with the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, Charlton. But, when we look at the tireless effort work of thousands of athletes in America, Charlton, that go out, they're not just worried about the bling that they got around their neck, but they're concerned about the everyday American citizen, even more so than some of our government officials, Charlton.
Yes.
It's just a great thing to see that a humanitarian award like this in honoring Muhammad Ali, the late Muhammad Ali, will be given to a deserving athlete.
Well, Big C, that's very well said. So again, I challenge every person all over the universe, when you want to find something real, Google it or follow Big C Sports or Oprah. And I mean that with all my heart. If no matter what you do, we're not going to be here forever. Everybody has an hourglass of time. I hope that the work we do, Big C, and I really appreciate what you do, that we just speak the truth so the young people looking for that beacon of hope can Google it. Don't even trust what we say unless you can Google it. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I would really look forward to one day of what we talk about all the time, going across the airways with all the sports broadcasting companies, Charlton. But it's not the guys with the mic, it's the guys with the editing button and switch, Charlton, that eliminate what the Americans hear about what's going on in the sports world and the societal world, Charlton. You don't want to have sports leaders become social activists from a media perspective, because that's too much power for too few people to have. So they eliminated it. And I hope that one day they let American citizens see that athletes care about everybody, Charlton.
Yep. Well, I think that's all right. Maybe something we'll get. Oprah Winfrey, can we get you on Big C Sports? Could you imagine that, Big C, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide? Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.